All right, guys, Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door reviews are here. Now, it is a little bit weird just because the reviews have been going up and have been going down. Right now, as of the time that I'm recording this video, there are 53 plus reviews, and the game was at a 90. The Metacritic must buy actually was like at a 91 earlier, but then it's dipped down to an 89. So things will fluctuate as more reviews come in and out. We are going to get into the high scores, the 10s. We're going to get into the 9s, the 8s. But so far, there are 53 reviews as of the time that I'm recording this video, and there are 0 mixed reviews, so no reviews that are at least a 74 to about 50 something or so, or 60, and there are no negative reviews, so no reviews that are lower than 5 or in the 40s or anything like that. So right now, the game is looking incredibly good. It's all positive reviews. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. Now let's go ahead and jump right into some of the 10 out of 10 scores. There are quite a number of them. We'll go over the best ones. Gaming Bible, 10 out of 10, and says Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door accomplishes what it sets out to do: remake and revamp a beloved Nintendo classic for a new audience on the Nintendo Switch. If you were a fan of last year's Super Mario RPG, this is undoubtedly the next step in your Mario role-playing journey, and it's accessible to a wide variety of gamers. It's a must-play adventure from start to finish, and one I couldn't have been happier to embark on again. All right, good stuff there. Next up is from VGC, Andy Robinson over there. Those guys do great work, and he says 20 years after its original release, Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door remains a treasure with a refreshingly un-Mario-like script, a memorable and lovable cast, engaging turn-based gameplay, and more variety than your average Taylor Swift concert. The GameCube title is regarded by many as a classic entry in the Plumber's RPG lineage. 10 out of 10 from VGC. Very good review. They liked it. Now we're going to go over one more 10 out of 10. God is a Geek, and they said, whether you're replaying for the new visuals or a very lucky first-time player, Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door is one of the best RPGs ever to come out of Nintendo. All right, so a lot of good 10 out of 10 scores, but those are people that are obviously super hyped. Let's get into some of the 9 out of 10 scores and hear what they had to say. This is from Checkpoint Gaming, 9.5 out of 10. Nostalgia goggles haven't failed us. Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door is still a masterpiece with vastly improved graphics, a great rearranged soundtrack, and a few tasteful gameplay touch-ups. Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door for Nintendo Switch is now the best version of this fan favorite classic. The only thing missing is extra content for those who have already played it, but for everyone else, there's no reason not to pick this one up. So yeah, very unfortunate that they didn't add some extra content in there, like Super Mario RPG, for example. That remake, that got some extra content after you beat the game. You can go by, do some more of the boss challenges. They're much tougher, so it would have been nice, but they're stating that this game is pretty much a better, more of an evolution of that one. So definitely good to hear that. Next up is from Press Start Australia, 9.5 out of 10, and they say Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door is a masterful remake that improves on the original in practically every way, while keeping everything that made it a mainstay in the Nintendo canon. While its timelessness is reflected in the strength of its humor, wit, and story, a major visual overhaul and much needed quality of life improvements make the Thousand Year Door an adventure that can't be skipped. All right, let's get some more 9 out of 10s here. We've got this one from COG Connected, 9 out of 10, and they said Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door is a remake done right. The new soundtrack and visuals look terrific. The game's essential identity has been preserved, plus the original release is able to shine through with no distractions. It's exactly as wonderful as you remember it being. I'm still impressed with the writing, and the level design is mostly excellent. I still hate the tournament arc though, and I wish some of the puzzles didn't involve scouring a dungeon until a forgotten button or door is dragged into the sunlight. Although the original release is amazing, it's also nearly impossible to play anymore. For new and old fans, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is an essential addition to the Nintendo Switch library. All right, interesting. A lot of feedback in terms of things, some of the positives, some of the negatives, some of the things that they've done better. So I like that one. Next up, 9 out of 10 from Digital Trends. And they said, this isn't a remake that completely redefines its predecessor, unlike Final Fantasy VII and Resident Evil 4. This is much more in line with Nintendo's recent Super Mario RPG and Mario vs. Donkey Kong remakes that refurbish and update the visuals with some small quality of life tweaks. Those with a working GameCube and a copy of Thousand Year Door don't need to worry about picking this up. Still, anyone grabbing it for the first time ever or in a while on Nintendo Switch is in store for an off-kilter and memorable experience from the moment they see that first image of the gallows in Rogueport. All right, 9 out of 10 from Digital Trends. Next up is from GameSpot, 9 out of 10, and they said this: the Switch version of Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is the definitive way to play the best turn-based RPG starring Mario. More of an enhanced HD remaster than a full-fledged remake, The Thousand Year Door has small yet meaningful quality of life features that ease some of the bloat from the original GameCube version. The catchy remix soundtrack wonderfully complements the thoroughly entertaining and dynamic turn-based battle system. Throw in a stellar cast of characters and consistently playful writing, and The Thousand Year Door has all the ingredients of an incredible turn-based RPG. Well, it always had them, but now they are blended a bit better. Okay, one thing that I also want to note here as a little side thing here, nobody's mentioned the whole 30 frames per second versus 60 frames per second. It seems like they're all saying, hey, this is just a better game overall playing, but that was a big thing. So maybe that will come up in the lower reviews here as we get down to it. Let's continue on here with just a couple more 9s because there are some websites that I want to get into and hear what they have to say. So next up is from Nintendo Life. They gave it a 9 out of 10 and said this: for 20 years, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door has been held as the best Mario RPG of all time, and the Switch remake proves it has earned that title. This is a fantastic RPG adventure, whether you're a Mario fan or not, with some best-in-class combat, brilliant writing, and a few little creases ironed out to make this the definitive way to play Thousand Year Door. We wish there were a little more to do post-credits, but there's no doubt about it. This is a beautiful-looking Switch remake and a must-play RPG. All right, very interesting there from them. Let's get into IGN. They gave it a 9 out of 10 as well and said this: Paper Mario has finally returned to its RPG roots with an amazingly loyal and visually dazzling remake of The Thousand Year Door. Everything fans have been begging Nintendo to bring back is here, including a delightfully varied turn-based battle system with satisfying real-time elements and unique lovable party members who are essential to both the story and gameplay. Okay, very good there as well. And we're going to go over one more 9 out of 10. This is from Pocket Tactics. 9 out of 10, and they said Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is a lovingly crafted remake that brings all the fun of the original while including some helpful quality of life updates that do away with the tedious traveling. There's a reason this game is a fan favorite, and this enhanced version lives up to all the expectations. Now, before we get into some of the other things, it was interesting because I think GameSpot says this is more of a full-fledged like remaster than remake, but everybody else here is calling it a remake. So I think it's also based on how you interpret what a remake is, whether you feel like that's like, let's say, Final Fantasy or like Resident Evil, where they completely change some of the things in the game when it comes to content in addition to overhauling the graphics, or do you think that, okay, it's just completely overhauled when it comes to the graphics, even though the game is pretty much like 99% the same? So very interesting with that, but I'm not going to delve into that. We'll talk about that later. Now let's get into some of the 8 out of 10 scores here here. There are quite a number of them. Let's get into what Vandal had to say. 8.8 out of 10. And they said Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is a beautiful remake of one of the best Mario RPGs. It isn't particularly ambitious beyond its new graphics and a couple of nice surprises, but if you haven't played the original or simply fancy rediscovering this GameCube classic, it is a fantastic choice for Switch players. And I'm going to go ahead and sit here and say probably about 99% of the Nintendo Switch audience has not played Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door because it was on the GameCube and there's been no re-releases unless you did it through emulation or some other type of way. Most people probably never played it. It's been 20 years. There's been a bunch of new people born since then. So yeah, most people probably haven't played it. So this will be a new game for so many people out there. All right, next up, let's get into some of the mid and lower 80s scores. There are some higher ones, but I do want to get into some of the other ones here. Game Informer, they gave it an 8.3 out of 10 and said this: for all the annoyances of repeating areas and slow but engaging combat, Thousand Year Door is now a series highlight. It marks the first instance of where I didn't want a Mario RPG to go. I generally prefer Mario and Luigi direction, but the constant fourth wall breaking, myriad of colorful and unique characters, and its willingness to be just weird all lead to a joyful journey. I am grateful that this shined up version of the GameCube classic I missed is finally available on a contemporary platform. All right, 8.3 out of 10. Next up is an 8 out of 10 from The Gamer, and they said Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door will probably be the last Mario game to release solely on the Switch. While I have loved a new Mario game, porting this cult classic means that a new generation of players can experience it. New fans will have a ball laughing along with Mario and co, even if their experience will be slightly marred by the backtracking and pacing. Old fans will enjoy the quality of life improvements and some new additions. Whether you're a Paper Mario veteran or this is your first time entering his origami world, this is the definitive way to play and experience the Thousand Year Door. All right. Next up is from Twinfinite. They gave it an 8 out of 10 and said, well, I wasn't there for the original. I now completely get just why Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door is so revered among Mario fans and why demands for a remaster were practically ceaseless. It's an absolute pinnacle of Mario RPGs, and if it was a bit more focused of an overall narrative experience in the discussion as one of the plumber's best ever games. Okay, another 8 out of 10 from WCCF Tech. And they said, while the new Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door preserves the gonzo charm that made the original game a cult classic, not a lot has been done to deal with its padding and other design quirks. If you're a hardcore Thousand Year Door fan, worry not, you're going to love this spiffy new version. If you're new to the game or weren't entirely sold the first time around, you're still likely to find plenty to enjoy here, but you may also notice a few tattered edges. Okay, and this is a very interesting thing that I'm noticing here towards the end of the list of reviews. There really isn't any 7s and there really isn't anything lower than that so far. It's all green, so I will refresh and see what else is coming up, but there's one more review here that I want to go over that's an 8 out of 10 from PlayerEssence, and they said the gameplay is incredibly sleek, and in terms of design and the graphical aspect of the game has a ridiculous amount of charm, and as icing on the cake, the story is very nicely developed with a lot of funny dialogues. So while we're all full of praise for this adventure itself, we are left with a somewhat sour aftertaste because of the downgrade to 30 frames per second, which is simply a shame. So only one reviewer actually mentioned this so far. So I'm sure once we get maybe some lower scores coming in later, more reviewers will mention this, but they still gave the game an 8 out of 10. Now I'm sure in a lot of the full reviews, there will be more reviewers that do mention that, but I'm just talking about at the end, like the excerpts that I'm reading here. But yeah, very interesting. I thought it would be mentioned a bit more, even with it just being a small slice of the reviews. So I'm very much looking forward to Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door. After reading a number of these reviews, the game is looking absolutely incredible. I love the Mario RPG formula. I've always been a big fan of it. I'm not as big of a fan of the newer Paper Mario style of games. I loved Super Mario RPG last year. That remake was was incredible. I've played Paper Mario 64. I played it back in the day, played it again on the NSO. That is great. But to me, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door has always been the pinnacle in terms of Mario RPG experience. And this is it. We've got it here. It seems like, yes, the 30 frames per second is a little bit of an issue considering the original was 60 frames, but the game plays really good. The input delay, the lag, the inputs, all of that stuff is absolutely great on the Nintendo Switch. In addition to all of the quality of life features and updates, the graphics look good, the music is awesome, everything has been overhauled and looks fantastic. But yeah, it's really cool. Yes, there are some pacing issues, which were there in the original, obviously. It's made a little bit better here, but some of the things that you didn't like in the original when it comes to the pacing or when it comes to the backtracking or some of the other things, the tournaments, it's all still there, but it's still something that you can get through if you enjoy the game. And even if you don't, you get through those parts, and the combat is still fantastic. The story is still really good. The writing is there. So Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, it's the classic brought back, and it's absolutely great how they've been able to bring this one back according to the reviews here. So very impressed with that. But what do you guys think overall when it comes to Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door on the Nintendo Switch? Do you plan on picking it up? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and let me know if you're planning on picking up Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door on the Nintendo Switch. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.